Okay, so when this happened to me, I had just gotten a nice job as a backhoe operator out of high school. I was working mostly in the city, excavating infrastructure that generally needs to be replaced around every 50 years or so. I worked there for around 10 years with no incidents at all. The city has been seeing its first boom in decades recently. Now we needed to start expanding and laying down pipes into what used to be wilderness and farmland. One day, I am going through a freshly raised forest. I dig up something that kind of looks like the door to a washing machine. The steel frame has been rusted down to absolutely nothing, so it has been there for a very, very long time. Who the hell was dumping out here, and why would they bury it underneath a stump? I tell the foreman. He seems to get a little bit upset with me and tells me to dump it in the scrap pile along with anything else that I dig up. That makes sense to me. I don't really care about it anyway. The next day, I dig up something made out of glass. It looks kind of like an intricate light bulb, but everything has long corroded away except for the glass. On the side is an imprint with writing using an alphabet that I do not recognize. I'm thinking, hey, this could be a Native American artifact. If it is an artifact like that, then by law, we have to stop the dig and consult with the local university. I show a nearby coworker. He's a good old boy who was already pushing 60 years old when I first joined. He tells me, oh, it's one of those. Just throw it in the dump pile before the boss sees you with one of them. I say, but hey, it could be an artifact. If it is, then we would have to stop the dig and wait around for the local university to survey the place. That means no pay until they finish up. You don't want that, do you? I'm thinking, true, I don't, but at the same time, I'm curious to know what it is, and I also feel bad just tossing it. I ask if he's seen it before. He says, yeah, I've seen it. The guys here before me have seen it too. My grandpappy has seen it. You did not stumble on anything new. I have no idea what it is, and it damn well can't do anything in the state that it's in. All I can say is that you will be fired if you do not dump it right now. That kinda sounds like we are breaking several laws right now, but I do see the incentives, so I take it on over to the dump pile. The foreman is already there, watching me really closely. He looks unusually worried for some reason. I throw it in the pile. He takes a deep breath and he just goes back to his truck. I start walking up to him. He's normally a pretty friendly chatterbox. He yells at me to get back to work and that we are already behind schedule. That's weird. We only just started this week. Surely we couldn't be behind already. Every Friday, everyone clocks out an hour early just to meet up at the bar. Some people drink a little bit more than they reasonably should, usually people who develop some chronic pain over their career. The foreman was one of those people. Once he is absolutely wasted, I asked him what the hell was going on Tuesday and what that was all about. He gets scared, like I just pointed a gun to his head. He straight up tells me, look, if you see anything like that again, just throw it away. Anything that looks like it came from the 20th century or later goes straight to scrap. Do not talk about it. Do not bring it home. And never bring them to me or anyone else, or you will be fired on the spot. And you better thank God that's all that happens to you guys. You know Murray, the guy that used to have the job that I have now? And then he trails off and he just starts crying. I heed his warning, and I vow never to talk about this again. Just kidding. I immediately go home, and I start trying to Google for info. I get around 2 links deep, and then my internet just shuts off. I reset my router, but nothing happens. I go to bed tired, and also really confused. The next day, the internet is still not back up. I call up Comcast. They told me that they had to terminate my account. I am permanently banned. They refused to even tell me why. Shit. Over the next year, Work continues on just as normal. I see artifacts almost every single day, and I quickly notice a pattern. They are parts of vehicles, appliances, machines, computers. They are all rusted to shit and completely unusable. They are buried several feet underneath old growth forest, but they all look like things that could have been made today. I'm extremely frustrated that everyone is seeing this shit every single day, but that we cannot talk about it. Newbies come and go with the seasons. Some have been working out of state. They all just know the rules. Apparently it's the exact same from Maine to California. Some of them do not take the rules seriously. Each and every one of them is fired when they do something wrong. Some of the more defiant ones keep on pushing. They try and take it to the press or post photos online. News stations immediately call security on them. All their electronics get confiscated by the police for various unrelated crimes. I have a sister who actually works at the local CBS affiliate station. That's why I know some of this. I try and discreetly ask her what's the deal. She tells me that there is a list of things they are absolutely forbidden from reporting on. Most things are pretty mundane. The C-suite of CBS, some of their billionaire friends, a few international agreements, code names for certain weapons programs. But one thing stood out. Evidence of a past, modern civilization. I ask her who knows about this. Everyone. We're just not allowed to talk about it. People come in at least twice a year with bags full of evidence, hoping to be the one to expose the truth. If we air even a second of it, our station manager will be shot, and everyone else in the chain of command will have their lives ruined. I had no trouble believing her at all. It's been around 5 years since then, and I'm no closer to the truth than when I started. It turns out that massive cover-ups like this do not require complete control. If you place the right incentives on the right people, they will be more than happy to just police each other. This is my 24th time trying to post this story to the internet. Each and every single time, the post gets deleted and wiped from all of the archives. I cannot find a single trace of it. Each time, the house hosting the open Wi-Fi network that I posted them from mysteriously caught on fire the very next day, or the internet is just gone and disappears, or the family just suddenly aren't there anymore. The house is just left empty. Hopefully, someone out there is able to find the answers. All of the evidence that you need is in your backyard. Just dig 10 feet down. Okay, so when this happened to me, I had just gotten a new summer job. It was a really long commute that I did on a bicycle each and every day. I was seeing some parts of the city for the very first time. I found a good route. I would use the same one every single morning. Then I would carpool home in the afternoon. The morning bike route that I would take actually goes through an elderly community. It's a middle-class kind of place, really safe, big lawns. That's why I chose it. I would see grannies and grandpas every single morning. This was before all of the boomer hate, so I would always wish them a good morning. I saw an old woman pulling weeds every single time. She looked really frail, with sunken eyes. A little creepy looking, to be honest, but I would try not to judge. I figured it must have been a part of her morning routine to do it right around the time when I was about to pass. I start calling out to her specifically. Whenever I would try to say hi or whatever, she would always just look at me silently, so I would smile and wave at her. I would check up on her every single morning. Sometimes she had a friend or two pulling weeds with her who somehow would look just as creepy as her. As the summer went by, I would see an increase in the weeders, all the way up to a dozen people at once. This goes on for a few weeks. One day, there is a heat wave. It's 95 degrees outside. The summer job is outside work, so it is cancelled. Giving teenagers heat stroke is not worth it. I went biking in the afternoon. I cycled the morning commute just on muscle memory. The weed pullers are at the same place as every single morning. It's almost 8 hours from the usual time and 95 degrees outside. They look incredibly dehydrated. Their eyes look like clay. Their skin looks like a lizard's. They look worse than Draugr from Skyrim. I try to talk to them. I get no answer from most of them. Some of them just kind of ramble a little bit underneath their breath. Some of the grannies are taking naps. I realize that things are not good. I call 911, and they arrive pretty quickly, all things considered. Every single one of them needed to be hospitalized. I later on hear the story that apparently they were demented care home escapees. Apparently, they walked for miles and miles to get to that neighborhood. One of them actually used to live there in one of those houses. It was her old yard. I saw a picture of the woman. It's the original weed puller, just around 50 pounds heavier. She was not even old. She was only in her 60s. She had been missing for over a week. She could not talk at all because she was dehydrated and starving to death while obsessively just standing there pulling weeds at all hours of the day. And I just smiled and waved at her every single time while she was stuck in this hell and torment. They didn't even know how she was still alive. Okay, so this happened to me when I was 17 years old. My friend turned 18 before me, and he actually already had his driver's license. I would go on adventures with him using his mom's car. In the summer, we would scour almost every single point of interest in the region. My friend was really into it. I was kind of just along for the ride though. Most of the time I had no idea where we were even going. I was just there to drink beer and talk. I didn't have to drive, so hey, I thought I would take advantage. Back in the day when this happened, everything was not online, so my friend would get his trip ideas from old relatives who knew the area pretty well, or just in passing conversation with people that we would meet. Often, the destination existed only in rumors and was not even there. During one adventure, my friend suddenly got an idea. He had heard about a wild cave nearby, but he only knew about the rough location and not the exact coordinates. It was supposed to be in the middle of a forest without a road leading to it. The cave's name is Devil something. I can't remember if it was Devil's Ass, Devil's Nest, or what. They give places all kinds of crazy names. I had no idea just how obscure the place was. My friend just said he knew that there was a cave nearby. I was thinking it was a well-known place, so we looked around for where it logically felt like it should be. After around 50 minutes, we ended up finding the cave entrance against all odds in the middle of nowhere. I was a little bit drunk, and we decided to explore the cave with no gear at all. My friend was freaking out, but I was feeling pretty calm. Inside, the place was really beautiful. The walls had mineral deposits that sparkled a little bit. There was a chamber after a really tight squeeze. I was drunk and limber, so I did not even freak out when I had to squeeze my body through a tiny narrow little gap. We went down a shaft, and when I did, that's when I started to freak out a little, since it was pretty slippery. Around 30 minutes into the spelunking, I started freaking out properly. Inside, I found some weird markings on the walls in brown and red that looked kind of like dry blood. I felt a knot in my stomach. Me and my friend, we left that cave and we never returned. Here's the really weird part. That cave does not exist anywhere online. I could not find any evidence of its existence. My friend does not remember it either. We have both known and explored many caves that exist in that area, but this was not one of them, not one that he remembers. This was in the middle of the forest. Neither of us can find it anymore either. The only lead about the place is that there was a satanic ritual held in a cave in the nearest town, according to a weird video. Okay, so when this happened to me, I was working as a grunt in the Swedish security police. It's kind of like FBI equivalent maybe. Maybe not, I'm not sure exactly. I raided a beautiful old mansion by the sea in the south of Stockholm. The suspect was not there. There was only a couple of rooms furnished, and we found a body in the living room. It took us what felt like half an hour to figure out the absolute horror of what this body was. The arms and the legs were both amputated by the base. The eyes were all gouged out. Each and every single one of the teeth were pulled. The body was suspended in a device, which I later learned was supposed to be used for hoisting up medical patients. There was some kind of drip hooked up to this body. The body was of a girl, aged maybe 17 or 18 years old. The investigation later revealed that her eardrums were pierced and her vocal cords were somehow mutilated. All of the wounds on the body were well healed. It had been several years since they were initially inflicted. There was both scarring and fresh wounds on all parts of the body. I never saw my boss cry before or since, except the meeting when we went through that report. The thing that really creeps me out to this day, though, is a guy came in several months later and just confessed. It was some foreigner with really bad Swedish, but he knew many details about the case, including the cause of death. It was some injected poison. I can't remember the name of the poison. Nothing had been published at all, and the girl had not even been identified. He was convicted, but it didn't sit right with me. I can't exactly say why, but I got a very strong impression that he was taking the fall for someone else. He knew all of the details about the scars, about the wounds, but he couldn't tell us the girl's name or what she looked like. And I don't know, I just got a really weird sense about this. And we found so much medical equipment in that house. I never mentioned it to my colleagues, but I got the impression that it was a manufacturing site that we stumbled upon. This was back in around 2015 or so. Okay, I have a story. I don't know if this will be interesting or if it kind of lines up with Wisps, but this happened to me when I was a small child. I would see colorful orbs of light whizzing around my bedroom ceiling every few nights. It's been going on as long as I could remember. The orbs were about baseball sized. They would cast dim lights on the walls and would fly in really irregular patterns. I felt a real sense of comfort with them. It would always make me feel curious. I would start thinking about the universe, life, death, that big picture kind of stuff. I would associate the lights with music, although I cannot remember them making any sound when I was awake. Some part of me kind of feels like they were not silent though. It's like I knew there was a sound, but I have forgotten it entirely, or maybe the sound only played in my mind. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that even makes sense. I brought the lights up to my mom one day, and she told me, "Those are just eye floaters, honey. Nothing to worry about." She explains the concept to me. I notice floaters in my eyes. I immediately know that these are not the lights that I saw, but I do not press it. Fast forward when I was around 9 years old or so. It was my bedtime. The same exact thing is happening. Orbs dancing across the ceiling, a strange sense of peace washing over me. And then I suddenly remember, and I'm like, hold the fuck up. I am suddenly hit with this primal terror. This does not make any sense. I don't know how I was so calm. I am staring at the lights. They slowly start to dim down. I run downstairs. My parents are watching television. My mom says, "You alright, Anon?" "Yeah, just, needed water." I drink my water, I go and piss, and I stare at the bathroom ceiling as the fear subsides. I head back to bed, and when I do, the lights are gone. I never saw them again after that day, once I realized what they were. I guess it's probably explainable as hallucinations or dreams in sleep. I did always have freaky dreams and sleep problems, but what gets me is a lack of transition or grogginess. The transition between sleep and awake is usually a lot clearer and more violent, so if I was asleep, then surely I would have known. Surely I would have woken up and realized, oh yeah, that was a dream. But there was no transition. It was like my consciousness didn't switch or change, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, so when this happened to me, it was summer break in high school in Kansas. A few of my friends and I would go hunting at night. Now, I know that is highly illegal and just plain wrong, but we were young, give me a break. Weeks passed by, and it became a regular thing for us to do on weekends. My parents owned a country home that we only used on a few occasions, so we normally went to the surrounding land on our hunts, as no one would bother us there. Most times, it was anywhere from around 5 of us to 7 of us. Only a few of us would carry guns, while the others would just carry flashlights. If we got bored, we brought our games consoles and played in my country house. Towards the end of the summer, most of my friends had gotten tired of it, and kind of the excitement and the freshness of everything kind of died down, so we just stopped. One day, my best friend asked me if we should go. I also decided to bring my cousin, who was just visiting for the week. So, it was decided that my friend, my cousin and I would all go hunting that night. It was just like usual. We went on our regular paths in the woods, with my cousin holding the flashlight while we both held the rifles. We joked about finding a deer so that we could eat it. I remember feeling really hungry at the time. We wandered much deeper into the woods than we usually would go, in the hopes of finding some big game. It was getting pretty late, and we had just decided to turn around to head home. Out of absolutely nowhere, we heard a loud metal clank. It sounded like a hammer hitting a metal sheet. At first, I turned to my friend, and I asked if he had misfired his rifle, but he immediately denied this. Then we heard the sound again, and again. It kept kind of a steady rhythm, around 10-second intervals between the sound. We thought it might be a big animal, as the noise just kept getting louder and louder. Maybe a mountain lion or a bear. Who knows? It was all way too sudden, but it sounded like it was getting closer. By this time, we were running back to the truck and just trying to get the hell out of there. As soon as we reached the dirt road, we hopped into the vehicle and hauled ass back towards town. Once we got home, we calmed down and talked about what had just happened. We unanimously agreed that it must have been some kind of animal wandering around in the woods. The very next day, while I was watching TV, my parents stormed into my room and chewed my ass out for coming home so late. I remember my cousin and I being really baffled because last time I checked, it was midnight. Apparently, we got home sometime around 3 a.m. I called my friend up and asked if his parents had said anything about coming home so late. He told me that we got home at midnight, just like I had previously thought, and that I didn't know what I was talking about. We did not talk much about it after that. It sort of just went away. One day, however, when I was actually hunting with my dad and a few of my uncles, we stumbled upon a circular clearing inside the woods. It just looked odd and out of place. My dad just said that it seemed like a deer-made clearing, and we all just shrugged it off. As we continued on walking, my heart sunk as I realized that this was part of the woods I had heard the sounds in. Again, this was 6 years ago. My friend and I no longer talk, and I very rarely see my cousin. This story sort of fell out of my memory until I met back up with my cousin and he brought it up. I'm not a huge believer in the supernatural or aliens. That being said, I know that this really happened, and I have never figured out what truly occurred that night. Okay, so this story happened to me when I was maybe around 6 years old or so. Around there, anyway. I was in town with my mom. I always stayed really close to her because it was not that long after the James Bulger murder, and I was terrified of being kidnapped. We were in this big shopping center in town that's laid out as a big square. The shops have a door on the front street, and then they have another door at the back of them that you can use to exit into the center, or enter them and then exit out onto the street. So basically, you can enter at either side and exit at either side. Lots of people just use the shops as shortcuts to get to other places. We cut through this pharmacy type one that was really small and narrow, with steps that led you to the door to the shopping center. I got distracted by something on display. I thought that my mom was standing right next to me, but when I turned around, I saw her exiting into the shopping center. I ran straight after her. The door is really heavy, and I was struggling to open it. I am panicking really badly. This nice woman, around my mom's age, rushes over to calm me down. She asks me what's wrong, and I tell her. She says to me, "Well, let's see if we can find her." I tell her that she went through these doors. She takes my hand and says, "Let's find her." She's just smiling really wide this whole time, like this giant teethy grin, and she doesn't stop smiling. She has a little look around. She starts taking me towards the front doors, towards the street. I try and protest and tell her it's the wrong way. I'm hoping that someone on the street will notice and kind of interrupt and help me, because she will not let go. She has an iron grip on my wrist, and no matter how much I pull, I can't get away. Only one person does intervene, and the woman just says to them that I am always like this because I hate shopping, that I was just a kid acting out. Despite my kidnapping fears, this is what seems to be happening in real time. We are almost at the doors when I hear my mom shout at me. She comes over and takes my hand. My mom asked the woman what she was doing. She explains how I lost her and she was taking me to find her. My mom gives her a misplaced thanks. I get forced to thank her too. We start leaving through the shopping center doors. I look back at the woman now that I'm completely safe. She is no longer smiling and is now glaring at me. It could have just been in my head or my childhood imagination making me even more scared, but I could have sworn that I saw her face morph into like an old hag's face. It terrified me that much, I would actively avoid using that shopping center as a shortcut even when I was an adult. People used to love trying to kidnap me for some reason. Someone actually tried to do this again when I was 17 years old. Okay, I guess I'll share that too. So, I was 17 years old. I was walking to my friend's house one afternoon. I was on a busy road at the end of my street, which is suspiciously quiet for some reason. There was a car parked up at the side with a guy perusing a map. The guy shouts over at me, presumably for directions. I go over and start showing him where to go on the map. I have to lean through the window because he has the whole map open. As I was there, I feel someone grab my legs and try to force me through the window while the guy inside tries to pull me in. Thankfully, I'm not a 15-pound 6-year-old kid now. I'm a 6'1", 210-pound man raging with testosterone who carried a weapon and who was definitely not the ideal target to kidnap. I fairly easy get myself free. I quite clearly asked them, "What the fuck are you doing?" as I back away. Neither of them responded to me. The one who came behind me just nonchalantly gets into the car and then they just drive off. Not even at speed. They just drove away at a normal pace, like nothing happened, like they didn't even care. In fairness, I think that one might have been mistaken identity, because there was a lot of trouble in the area at the time, but still, they didn't even offer me a sorry or an explanation. They just left. Okay, so here's a really short story that kind of just really stuck with me for a long time, and to this day, I can't really explain what happened. This happened to me back in 2014. I was working a really shitty job at Walmart as an overnight janitor. I was just pushing a big broom around. The boss actually lets us listen to music as long as it's only one earbud in so that we can still be talked to and called. So I was just jamming away, just trying to pass the time. The store was practically empty, so it was actually pretty comfy. I was in the furniture section. Suddenly, in my open ear, like pressed right up to it, I hear what sounds like a loud, angry whisper, like the person actually had their mouth on top of my ear, and I just hear, "Don't wake him up." I nearly shat bricks right there on the spot. I looked around and the aisle was completely empty. There was no one around. There was no one to wake up either, so I have no idea what the voice even meant.